Hey, I'm Matt, and here's a quick rundown on the ancient city of Thessalonica. Thessalonica was founded around 315 BC, and there's actually a pretty interesting story as to how that happened. So we've got to back it up just a little bit. There's this guy named Philip II who lives up north of Greece in Macedonia, and he gets all conquery one day, so he starts, doing what conquery people do. He conquers things, and Macedonia runs roughshod over Greece, and then Philip II is like, I need to get an heir ready so that he can be emperor of the world someday. So he appoints a mediocre educator, maybe you've heard of him, Aristotle, to be the personal tutor to his kid Alexander and a few other people, one of which is this guy named Cassander. Alexander the Great inherits the empire from his dead dad, and he goes and conquers everything, and then he dies at a young age, and there's this whole group of people who come after him who want to take over his empire. And historians call this group of people the Diadochi, and Cassander is one of these claimants to Alexander's holdings. But Cassander has his eye on the jewel in the crown of all of it, the homeland, Macedonia itself. So he's got to make a bunch of political maneuvers, and he turns out to be a pretty big jerk who's willing to poison people and murder women and things like that to get ahead. And he ruthlessly marries Alexander the Great's stepsister, a girl named Thessaloniki, in a strategic move to secure more territory in Macedonia. He decides that he's going to honor his new bride by naming this new town he's creating after her. So Thessalonica is founded again around 315 BC, and it's built over the top of an existing settlement called Thermae. So there must be some kind of hot spring thing or something going on there. But Thessalonica immediately makes sense. It's set in a smart place. It has a deep harbor. It sits right on about 4 major intersections of roads and rivers that give access into the heartland of Europe. And it's a natural gateway point from inland Europe to the Bosporus, which is where Byzantium and later Constantinople sits. So it's just in an important spot. Well, fast forward about 100 years, and the Romans come along and start conquering things, and their conquest of Macedonia was a pretty big deal because Macedonia is a rock star ancient empire. It's kind of a, feather in the hat, sticker on the helmet for the Romans. So they give it an extra place of prestige among their fallen foes. And Thessalonica serves as a governing city for the new Roman region of Macedonia. So unlike the neighboring city of Philippi, Thessalonica is not a Roman colony. That is, it's not just a Roman outpost. It's regarded as something that predates Rome, and the Thessalonians are allowed to govern themselves largely in their own traditional Greekish Macedonian style. The Romans weren't idiots, and they figured out that building around this strategic location was a good idea. So they built the equivalent of Interstate 80 right through there. It's called the Ignatian Way, but it's like the big east-west road, and that causes Thessalonica to flourish even further. And if you're a fan of the New Testament, Thessalonica comes up in Acts chapter 17 when the Apostle Paul rolls into town and starts explaining the whole Jesus thing there. And apparently the message was well enough received there that a church was established in Thessalonica, and Paul wrote 2 letters to them that are part of the New Testament. About 350 years after Paul, Emperor Theodosius, who was a Christian emperor, got real mad at some people who rebelled in Thessalonica and had some surrogates murder them all on his behalf, which made Ambrose of Milan, a really important bishop, super angry at him. And Theodosius, the guy who made Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire, actually got temporarily excommunicated for his mishandling of the Thessalonica situation. That little episode would have crushed some towns, but again, Thessalonica was and is in such a smart place that it has continued to thrive under all sorts of different political realities. And today, if you go there, there's really not a lot to see in terms of the ancient city, because the city's done so well that they've just built over the top of a bunch of stuff, save a couple of little locations where you can still get a little bit of a hint of how things were in classical times. If you found this useful and you want to know more about stuff like this, you can check out my video on Acts chapter 17 or this other video on Caesarea, which was another important town in New Testament times. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour, and we'll see you soon.